Hey everybody! So, we're kicking off the new year with the genesis of the Art of Evolution podcast 2.0. Our first guest is Samora Yeboah. He is an author, a musician, and a lyrical magician. This you will soon find out in your own experience, and we touch on some pretty profound topics. Motivation is a big one, and we talk about how we can cultivate and develop motivation in life. We talk about revealing and finding purpose. What is purpose? We talk about the non-linear process of growth. Exciting topics. I invite you to get comfortable, to enjoy and embark the adventure with me. It was such a joyful atmosphere, and towards the middle of the podcast found myself to almost be levitating on the inside. I felt so weightless and buoyant. So yeah, it was an expansive conversation, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Lots of love. Peace.
I think because a lot of people can be quite extrovert in their activities, that sitting with yourself, being isolated, can present some challenges, Um, but it also presents a lot of opportunity. And for me, the opportunity is to really delve within your own nature, to get to know yourself on a deeper level, to understand really what makes you tick, what um, moves you, what inspires you, and how you can operate from a place of integrity and understanding and inner wealth, you
Mm.
know. And for me, once you tune into that gold mine within yourself,
Mm.
you begin to have untold riches. You really begin to unlock aspects of your mind, consciousness, to really express yourself from a place of authenticity, a place of free flowing movement, uh, whilst being present. And these can bring forth challenges because you start to realize how busy your mind is, how busy your life has been. So it takes a process of just coming into a sense of stillness and presence with yourself. And then when you access, I guess, a deeper state of being, you become more in tune with an inward happiness, an inner expression of joy, love, and sense of self-care as well.
Oh man. I mean,
So
as you're expressing that, that's what I'm feeling here now. You're speaking about this gold mine and inner happiness, and as you were speaking, I felt that simply like expanding and flushing in me. So it's such a I resonate so highly with that perspective. That is also been my own personal journey and my own personal transformation. So I'm curious to hear more about like how did that process happen for you? What did you have a particular catalyst? Has it been a process that's been happening over years? And where do you feel that you've arrived in that process for yourself at this current time?
that's a good question. Thank you. It's been a process for sure. It's been quite a lengthy process, with a lot of challenges, and a lot of experiences that really kind of push me towards being more, I guess, introverted in the sense of like wanting to understand self, what self is. Um, and I think it really, for me, it kind of around 2011, 2012, that's when the kind of initial kind of changes and awakening, shall we say, started to happen. It was just a process of like becoming disillusioned with certain things that I felt within society that I just felt like I was outgrowing. A sense of like um, external gratification, and a sense of like um, putting my love into others and into relationships when I was really essentially neglecting my own self. So it was really a kind of a coming back to myself, if that makes sense. And and you know, it started with changing my diet, changing certain habits that I'd outgrown, and I think that was a major catalyst for me. Is that understanding that man is a creature of habit, and if you really want to change your life and change your mindset, to grow and to mature, you need to look into those things that potentially you overlook, the everyday like habits and tendencies that you do, and they really determine like your trajectory. They determine how you unfold your wisdom and your growth. So yeah, it's been a process over years, and I guess a process of refinement, and this balance of sort of discipline with freedom of expression and ability to harmonize and be present to what's emerging in the moment. Because for me, discipline helps you to train your mind, helps you to move beyond your limitations and your patterns of behavior. But sometimes if you are too rigid in your discipline, you lose out on the spontaneity of the now, of what's here, what's moving through you. So it's important to have both. And I feel like it's about, you know, study, examining, you know, masters, examining those that have come before, that have had a great sense of personal liberation and freedom of the mind and the spirit through this vessel, through this body, but also integrating that and expressing it from your own place of truth and authenticity. So it becomes authentically yours.
I see. And so what I hear is there was this spark in seeing originally, let's say back in 2012, 2011, you started to feel a discrepancy between, would you say, where you were and where your environment was, or were there some inner conflict or some jarring of some sorts that you could say, is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that the ideas that I was taking in from my society, from my friendship group, from um, influences around me, weren't serving my highest good. I felt that there was a disharmony, a friction between what I felt was emerging and what I guess was imposed upon me from childhood. And I feel that there is this process. If you observe a child, children are full of wonder. They come into this life, and they really just need love to nurture their inquisitiveness about life. And there is this joy for every moment, experiencing things as fresh and new. And then education comes in and creates this order, this structure to our consciousness. And then we we sometimes lose the mystery. We create order and structure, and sometimes this creates a mundane view of reality, of consciousness.
Mm.
And so sometimes you can conform to other people's ideas and what has been posed upon you. And so there was this feeling of that sense of rigidity and sense of this doesn't really feel like me, you
Okay.
know. So
Okay.
there was a necessary breaking out of that
Mhm.
into what I felt was more authentic to who I am.
Okay. So in a way, you could say there was this sense of restriction and a sense of being blocked in a certain way.
Yeah,
And by acknowledging that, acknowledging, I feel restricted. This doesn't feel real to me. It doesn't feel authentic to me. It gave you the motivation to venture beyond and venture into the unknown of, okay, what am I, or what can I be, who am I, and what is important to me, what is relevant for me. And that started this process, like you were saying, around exploring and diving into teachers of different sorts or people who has a voice out in the world and starting to listen acutely. Okay, how can I draw inspiration? And also that massive insight that you had around that humans are creatures of habit. So if I
mm,
want to grow, if I want to excel, I need to design my life in such a way that it supports growth. So I need to really look at myself. How do I spend my time? How do I spend my energy? And in a on a day to day level, and is that in service of growth, in creative expression, in authenticity, or is it serving something else?
exactly. And that is a key word: service. Is this serving me? Is that should be a daily question,
Yeah.
you know, to whatever is you're challenged by or whatever you're exploring. Is this serving me?
Mm.
And serving my highest good?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, then make the effort to inquire into it, and to maybe transform it. And I think that there was difficulties in that the people around me didn't really understand the process that I was going through. So there needed to be changes. There was changes in my intimate relationships and in some certain friendships that necessarily had to change, because again it wasn't serving where I was moving towards. And
Mm.
that is a difficult process, because it's like letting go. It's about not we become attached to certain things, certain habits, certain places we are.
Yeah.
And so that's a difficulty in moving and transitioning into something and letting go.
Mm.
But that's a very necessary process if you want to move into a deeper space of self and exploration.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because the exact same processes, of course, within the theme of my own life, I've gone through the same phases of basically feeling myself to not be in resonance with my environment anymore and not really being able to feeling met and feeling yeah, like you said, or like I said, in resonance with my environment. So I think that's is an interesting that that is a process, and I know other people's that this has happened for, and it's quite logical that that needs to happen if we want to transform and change. We need to step out of also our our comfort zone and our
Yeah,
zone of or our zone of an current atmosphere. If we want to expand, of course that's going to happen. And
mm,
if we then have and if we then associating or hanging out with people who are not interested in in a similar kind of movement, then that will feel somewhat restricting. One
yeah,
thing I wanted to touch on is, you said, is this serving me and is this serving my highest good? How do you personally see how that relates to serving others versus
yeah.
serving?
Yeah, completely. And this comes down to something that I've thought about quite deeply, which is um, there is a difference between being self-centered and centered in self. Right. So being self-centered is what do I want? Like gaining something just purely for myself in a more materialistic sense of like adding to yourself and like wanted to expand and wanted to like um, to create this sense of like this is what I want in a very sometimes a kind of like a seeking and grasping kind of way. But being centered in self is understanding your needs over your wants. And what is it I need to flourish as a human being? I need clean water, I need good food, I need to be around other people that stimulate my growth. I need to be in an environment where I can flourish. So it's about understanding your needs, and then also understanding that we as individuals are part of the whole. That's and also the whole is within us. So it's one and the same. It's a paradox. We are part of the whole, but we are also the whole. And so when you have that sense of self-awareness, you realize that all of your thoughts, actions, deeds ripple out. That everything you do is contributing to a pool or an ocean of interconnectivity that changes and influences your environment. So being centered in self is really important part. Serving yourself is a really important part of serving others. Because if you are not full, if you are not capable of thinking clearly and acting with a sense of dignity, a sense of carrying yourself with a sense of courage and faith, then you can't fully meet others and serve others. So the initial process for me is to really work on yourself, work on integration, work on becoming a whole, complete being.
Yeah.
And then you can best serve others.
Yes, that puts it into great context, I feel. And as you were speaking about, when there is service to self in a selfish way,
You
the
go
word that came
deep.
to the word that came to mind was self gratification, where there is this an accumulation for one's own personal good and without consideration in a sense. Or there is this like you said, it's self-centered versus centered in self, and I feel that is a very nice way to put it. I resonate highly with that. And I also wanted to touch on when you say, we are part of a whole, so we're part of the cosmos, we're part of the universe, obviously, but we are also, the whole is in us. What do you mean by that? Or how do you experience that? How do you see that?
Okay. So it really comes down to this, the idea of self being definite, like this is a definition. So how we define ourselves really shows how expansive we can be. So if you define yourself by just physical limitation, just physicality, then you're limited to that. So if you define yourself by, or you inquire into self, and you realize that, and this is one of the most profound realizations that awakened in me, which was the I, this sense of I-ness, is created. When we say, who am I, and we add something to it, I am Samora. I was born in Ghana. I am an artist. I like poetry. You know, we are these things. These things are something that we express, but they do not define us. So when you inquire into I, you realize that the I is elusive. It doesn't really have a fixed point. And then you realize that all your ideas of yourself spring from the I. So when you dissolve, when in meditation and in self-inquiry, you dissolve that I, you realize the whole universe is within self. So it really comes down to a sense of what self really is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you remove all definitions, like you said, I am X amount, I am Samora, I'm born in Ghana, which is a narrative of some sort, right? It's
Yes.
a narrative. If you remove memory and you take away the narrative, what is left?
Yeah.
What? What is left
And
then?
that scares people, and that did
Yeah.
scare me initially,
Yeah.
because you don't want to go there, because we are fearful of the unknown.
Yeah.
And when you go into these realms, you realize that how much of your life has been based around this sense of I-ness, this sense of identity, and like you said, narrative. You take that away, who am I?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, nothing? Like,
yeah.
I'm nobody. What?
Yeah, what is that? What is that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing is, I mean, I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday, and we were talking about exactly this actually. And I invited the process of meditating without attaching to a concept or attaching to a definition of oneself, to simply see, if you allow yourself to empty out of these of concepts and self images, self concepts, what let are you open to exploring, to simply see what is here, what is this, what is happening, and what is alive before the words, so to speak. And we touched upon, and the fear came into the space, because there is like um you know like you touched on the fear of the unknown, and it's the fear itself that creates that, in my perception, creates the it creates the difficulty, and that is where the resistance comes in, and then it becomes something negative, because that's what we're attaching to it.
Exactly. And sorry to interrupt, but
Go on.
this quote came into my mind when you were saying that, and it was a quote from a yogi called Sri Yukteswar, and he said, "Look fear directly in its face, and it shall cease to be." And so you're right. When we have a fear, we are giving that fear power over us,
Yeah.
because we don't inquire into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fear becomes bigger than we can even imagine, or bigger than what it actually is,
Yeah.
because we're feeding it, in a sense.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah. Cool.
I
100%, my friend. 100%, my friend. So, but what I want to highlight is, for you, this has been a process. For me, this has been a process, and this, working with this fear and taking our steps one at a time, and really, or in accordance with what we personally can and are capable to and comfortable with, is a part of the process. But it's that consistency and that orientation that I always come down to. Are you fundamentally oriented towards wanting to know the truth of who you are, and of what life is, and what is actually happening? That is, if that is in place, truth is your destiny. How can it not be? I mean, if you're fundamentally oriented towards having the truth revealed, without posing and suggesting what that truth is for you or for me or for anyone, but if there is an orientation of wanting to know, then it's all a matter of time and an all a matter of a process for that to be revealed and be seen. This is my
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, I wanted to kind of expand upon that as well, because in my sort of statement of 2020, there was one thing that I said. Sorry, I'm just going to bring it up here. I said maintenance of health, both physical and mental, are essentials that need to be the forefront of my awareness. The journey of healing is a circle, cyclical, not a straight line, and some lessons may be repeated. So, as you were saying that, sometimes people have this idea of growth being this oh, I'm here now, and I'm building up towards this trajectory, this straight path.
Yeah.
But really, for me, it's an unfoldment, and there are different stages of unfoldment, and sometimes you can get epiphany moments where you are with the truth, you're there, and then you might dip into forgetfulness, and so it's a continued reminder of what and who you are, in almost moment by moment, so you can become, because every moment is new and fresh and alive, and so it's about reminding yourself that the truth is here and now and present, and sometimes it's just a matter of taking away that we in the West feel like, that we need to add constantly. Like, I need to add to my life. And obviously there's certain things that we can access that maybe make our life more comfortable. But essentially, if you want to be, I've been getting more and more into minimalism. And if you want to be really present, then it's about taking away and about revealing what is already here.
That's very powerful. You said minimalism, and what came to mind as you were speaking about that, when you have less choices, life becomes more simple, and you spend less time kind of in consideration of, let's say you have 10 jackets, you know what I mean? Like you'll be you'll be hammering. I mean, I can see that happening in me sometimes when I'm considering a couple of options. If you have multiple options, you want the best option, right? You want to choose the best option. So you're gonna wheel in your mind and like trying to like, oh, you know what I mean? So there is a contraction that often can happen as we consider different options. I have another friend who, usually when she steps into a restaurant, she just has a very hard time picking a meal because she doesn't want to you know what I mean, because she doesn't want to end up with something that's shit, and she wants the best thing on the menu. So then usually we ask the waiter, do you have any recommendations? And that simplifies things for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
These two I recommend. Okay, that makes it much easier. Now I
yeah,
can consider two instead of 20.
yeah,
So minimalism, I think it's powerful. And what I've also reflected on is, you know, thinking about renunciation and living as a monk versus living in the world. Living as a monk, life is very simple. You don't need to take care of much. Maybe you have some activities that you need to do throughout the day, but you're fed. You don't need to think about money. Usually, you don't have a partner. So life is super simple, and that allows you and gives you space to simply focus on the practice and not having to deal with much. So in my perception, if you live a more complex life, that is a bigger challenge. It's in some sense, it's more difficult to navigate and to remain in touch and in remembrance of your deeper being when you're living a life of great complexity, and when there is so much nuisance and distractions and things that is alluring.
definitely. Yeah, I completely resonate with that, and there were points in my early years when I became more aware of myself that I was meditating a lot, and I was considering you know, leaving and really going into an ashram and just
Me too, man.
leaving the world, because this state of peace and quietude was so profound that I felt like the world was quite chaotic, and it
Hmm.
was like, whoa, like I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, yeah,
But I realized that reading autobiography of Yogi, there was this concept that came through called the householder yogi, that you can have a family, you can go to work, and you can do these things in the world,
yeah.
and still have a great sense of self-realization.
Mm.
And this was just a profound kind of feeling of freedom. And like you said, it's difficult to implement
Mm.
because we have all these distractions, and because there are so many sensory kind of um, distractions that lure us in.
Mm.
But really, it does take a sense of strength, but also people are needed in city environments, in towns, in places that are built up materially, because you are needed because you are a vehicle of change. And yes, a lot of people have this material comfort, but they are spiritually starved.
Mm. Mm.
And so when you start to navigate the material and the spiritual, and you find that equilibrium, you find balance in the two, then you can become a very powerful vehicle for change,
Mm.
and you can really express that to others, that yes, this is possible.
Mm.
Yes, it is difficult, but once you start to focus on what I said before, the essentials, the what you need,
Mm.
then it becomes easier and easier. And then you start to connect with others like we're connecting right now. And you create a sense of camaraderie, a sense of
Yeah.
companionship. And you realize that, yeah, you're not alone in this
Oh,
process, that there are many that are seeking what you are seeking, you know?
yeah. That community is so powerful, and to like how we are connecting right now, connecting both, in mind and in heart, and this space of openness, non-judgmentality, with an intention simply to explore, to share, to give, to offer, and to mutually empower. I mean, it's such a delightful space to be in. And for a lot of people, this is foreign. For a lot of people, this is not the ordinary. This is not the norm. It is and over. I mean, my experience has been over time, with consistency in that orientation and that dedication, and going through the fire when there is fire, going through the rain when there is rain, and singing out loud when it's sunny. You know, like in the process.
And singing in the rain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, singing in the rain as well. And life becomes more and more luminous, more and more profound. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is motivation, because motivation is such a big thing, such a massive thing, because you can even have the knowledge, you can have the wisdom, you can have the understanding, you can have support, but without motivation, you're not going to go nothing is going to happen. Nothing is
Yeah,
going to happen. You're going to be stuck where you are. So, I want to touch on, for the people who's listening in, for
yeah,
myself, for you perhaps,
yeah.
how can we amplify and how can we nourish and cultivate motivation? What's your feeling around that?
Yeah, I think motivation comes, it's very connected with purpose.
Hmm.
And once you strip back those distractions and those things that are preventing you from really containing your energy. I was listening to a podcast on Manly Palmer Hall recently, and he was talking about the energy of the child in comparison with the energy of the adult. it seems like the energy of the adult is less, is lacking, um, as compared with the energy of the child. Children are just so bountiful and full of
Mm,
energy and vitality.
mm,
And he says it's because when you get older, there are so many things, important things that you need to kind of like put your mind into. So I feel like once you start to become less distracted, less cluttered, more organized with how you expend your energy, you have more energy.
mm,
And then when you start focusing on your sense of purpose,
mm,
um, right now, you know, this is a great sense of purpose for me to actually connect with you and to actually express more expansive ideas. This is actually giving me a lot of energy, a lot of
mm.
movement. So it's about um, really kind of like coming into yourself and being more refined with how you expend your energy and vitality, and then you can use it in ways that are more expansive, like this, and like for creativity. I read this book called The Organized Mind, and it was talking about how hunter gatherers would only focus on one thing at a time. You know, I need to get food,
Mm,
I need shelter.
mm,
There would be this one thing that they would be focusing on. Now we are oversaturated with information. We have so many apps on our phone. We have so many tabs open on our computers. We have so many conversations going on simultaneously.
mm.
This can lead to like neural fatigue, and this can lead to a feeling of being overwhelmed
Yeah.
with everything. You know,
Mm,
so it's really about becoming more organized in your thinking,
mm,
and more refined in your thinking, and trying to identify what is truly important over what is erroneous or just, you know, just kind of momentary.
yeah.
And for me, that gives me more energy, more vitality, and more what was the word you said initially? Um,
Motivation.
Motivation
Yeah.
to really carry out your tasks and to um, lead a fuller life.
Mm. There's a couple of things that comes up for me as you speak. And this podcast is called The Art of Evolution. So, and that is all about like that the playful, beautiful, amazing process of growth and how that is so fulfilling, to move in ways that to basically um, to move, evolve, grow, and expand. That process in of itself gives so much nourishment when you witness yourself growing, evolving, which includes then an enrichment. Like you feel more capable. You you are possibly more confident. You are so there are certain qualities that opens up as we evolve and as we grow. So I reckon before we can, before anyone can begin to organize themselves, they need to have something to organize around. So, key then, of course, is to have some idea of where do I want to move? What am I moving towards? Is my priority to be a musician? Okay, if I want to be a musician, I need to design a lifestyle that supports that process
Yeah,
of becoming a musician. If I want to become a mentor or a weightlifter, we need to kind of have a beacon or a beam that informs our choices and informs our organization principles, so that we're basically organizing intelligently. And that's when the art of prioritization comes in, which you were speaking to. The art of prioritizing what is of most relevance right now.
yeah.
The hunter gatherers who said, first we need shelter, mate. Don't think about getting kids now, man. Come here, come here, come here. We need a bloody shelter. It's rain tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Basic of importance. And then getting food. So the art of prioritization. So why I wanted to bring this in is like people listening, I feel, or you're touching on so many great points, and also you said the word purpose. So finding out what am I aspiring towards? What is it that I want? And what is of importance to me? And then one can begin to inform and find the motivation to really live accordingly.
Exactly. And I think that that is a very difficult thing sometimes, because it's like asking yourself, what am I good at? I think a lot of people are in that space of just, I don't know what it is that I
Mm.
want to do. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And that can be a very challenging process. But for me, it comes easier when you start to quieten down and simplify, and actually start to practice just being,
Mm.
just breathing, just being, and experiencing yourself as you are. And then you start to realize you can observe, use observation. For me, I've always been someone who writes down my thoughts. I've been very good at expressing myself through words. And so naturally, that led on to me wanting to create music, me wanting to write books, poetry, and express myself through words. So it's just observing things that you like to do and following your excitement. you know if you're sitting there not knowing what to do, and then something comes along, maybe you're reading a book, or maybe there's something that might move you, um follow that excitement,
Mm.
and then it may lead you to a space of growth, a space of, okay, this is something that I really want, I'm passionate about, and
Mm.
then I can explore that. So
Mm. I resonate highly with that, my friend. I resonate highly with that. And like you said, to quieten down and allow the answer to be revealed. So actually what it starts with, before that, is a desire to know what you want. First you need to have an actual desire,
yeah,
know if there is something that you want that might be different from what you're already living.
yeah, exactly.
So that's a pretty interesting one. So something to cultivate is, and to actually really meet and consider is, am I actually interested in finding and living the best life that I can live, so to say, or am I actually interested to to find out what my gift is and what I can offer to the world. And if
Exactly.
that is intense enough, then my belief is that something will emerge that will catch you, that will activate you in such a way that you start to become drawn towards it, and it becomes a calling. So for me, this is a pretty pretty an expansive seeing, because I've never framed it in that way before within my own conscious seeing, that the importance of the actual interest and the desire for having purpose in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I wanted to expand in the sense that um, awareness is also key in that, because another part of my awakening, or my kind of like orientation around knowing myself, was, where are these thoughts coming from? Like, so for example, you might be born into a family of doctors. Let's say, for example,
Yeah.
and there might be this sense of, um, you need to carry on this tradition through our family, from your parents, or from your siblings, because this is what we've done before. This is how we frame success, and finding a sense of purpose in life. This is our perception of success. And so people might feel pressured from external influences to doing a certain thing and never really take the time to stop and check in with themselves to see if this is actually really truly what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
So I think part of what, you know, what we just explored is that acknowledgement of where is my desire propelling me, where is this coming from, and is it really fulfilling my deep need and my deep sense of purpose,
Mm.
or is it from my conditioning?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, that, well, in relationship to that, it's the emphasis on both seeking and listening. Seeking, an actual interest, and then listening to the answer as it is revealed, which connects with awareness, simply being aware and allowing the answers to reveal themselves, while simultaneously actually being interested in revelation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's like wait around for what's coming up. It's like don't just move on. You know, you have to kind of be there, receptive to what's coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and actually be engaged with it. Yeah,
Yeah. Powerful, powerful. Be
yeah,
engaged with it, be involved, be interested, and
yeah,
be
definitely.
curious, because that in of itself is a force that really propels. And I would suggest that curiosity is one of the greatest forces there is, when it comes to life.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said as well, listening. You know, listening is an art, and
Mm.
it's something that personally I've had to develop within myself because I felt like in the past sometimes I would have my own preconceived ideas about things, and I would be having conversations with people, and I'd be waiting for them to finish so I can just jump in and like give my 2 pence worth.
I got you, man.
But I realized there's so much you can gain from another, and also about yourself
Yeah.
when you're in that space of listening and being receptive,
Mm.
which for me is more of a passive feminine quality as opposed to active and kind of masculine, if you know what I mean. I don't like to distinguish things too much definition, but what I mean by that is that if you look at cultures, pre-literate cultures, they would be more in tune with the listening faculty. So
Mm.
they would be more receptive to information. Story would be a really important part of the process of experiential knowledge.
Mm.
Um, Whereas in the West, we've developed, books and reading and passing on information through form,
Yeah.
which is more of a masculine kind of way of expressing.
Mm.
And so I feel that tapping into that more receptive quality of listening um, can really, really help you in that process of really discovering curiosity and becoming self-aware in this process of exchange with another person or group of people.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, what we're speaking and pointing to here is a process. And as we become more masterful in being able to deeply listen, be deeply engaged in the conversation, while simultaneously having being centered in self, like you said, so that you can, so it's like, it's a dynamic, it's and being able to hold space and be receptive in conversation, while simultaneously being spontaneous and alive in your response, is that is a thread of mastery that takes time and energy and persistence and consistency to develop.
Completely, yeah, yeah, and self mastery is something that I think that is really integral to everybody's life. you
Yeah.
know, how we can think critically, how we can um, intelligent discrimination, because I think everyone has judgment to a certain degree, but intelligent discrimination is deciding those things which are going to bring your life more joy, more happiness, more fulfillment,
Yeah.
rather than like we were saying before, like where do I want to eat or what do I you know what I mean? These things. So yeah, I think that self mastery is a really important part of this process of integration and understanding um, our experiential process
Mm.
and feeling more joy filled and alive. And you said something about memory earlier, how we I think with memory comes stored emotion and stored kind of a denseness in relation to the past.
Mm.
But when you can be more present, then you can experience what is fully here now.
Yeah.
You realize that the moment is this birthing of ever new joy, and when you can experience that with another, uh, for me that is the fulcrum of this life that we're experiencing. It just that's what life really is about. uh,
Mm.
in light and presence, you know.
That for me is an entry point. I want to shift gears a little bit,
Okay.
and so the gear shifting is a reorientation, and what I want to invite and open is the exploration of now, immediacy of this present moment, meaning sensations, feelings, um, what is actually alive. And this, of course, very deeply connects to our body. So if I were to open or and invite you, simply with authenticity and vulnerability and everything that we really highlight, particularly me and Samora is a part of the same men's circle, and something we've been emphasizing in that context is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and to be open and to be true to ourselves and to be real in our conversation. So
Mhm.
I'm curious, what is happening for you right now in your reality, like just directly as you're experiencing it right now?
What's happening in my reality? I think in terms of my bodily sensations, when I focus on breathing, and the breath for me is something that I regularly return to engage me with a sense of being alive and present.
Mm.
Um, when I breathe more mindfully, I feel like there's a rising. There is this energetic shift throughout my body and up into fueling my thoughts, fueling my mind,
Mm.
and allowing me to be more um, present and alive in my awareness.
Mm.
And this is a conscious effort,
Mm.
because I realize sometimes I can dip into thought. I can go into this space of being almost dense in the way that I think, because I'm in thought. But when I'm more present in my breathing, I feel this expansive um, sense of just true presence, which is aliveness, aware, and um, a sense of joy, a sense of love. Uh,
Okay, sweet. Can we track that? So
yeah,
let's track that. You said aware, alive, and a sense of joy. Where is there any place in the body that you feel the joy? And is it emerging as a sensation as well, would you say?
yeah, I would say that it's a sensation. It's a lightness of being. It's it's I kind of want to point to my chest, my kind of like chest area,
Yeah.
and opening out. Um, yeah, I feel like, you know, tapping into the energetic centers, and this is something I've become more acutely aware of, um, more and more, where energy flows, how it's stored, how where you're stagnant, where your blocks are. And
Mm.
I feel that once you start to strengthen your body, you start to move
Mm.
more freely.
Yeah.
That focuses on your solar plexus,
Mm.
and then when you focus there and become stronger there, you can move. And I feel like it's like a gateway into the heart. And when you're more heart centered and heart minded, then that helps you to become more expressive vocally, expressing your heart's truth from
Mm.
a place of spontaneity rather than premeditated thought. And so this feeling is coming through the diaphragm into the heart space and expanding outwardly. And it really relates to the mind as well, because this is a channel. This energy moves up into the mind, into the crown, and outward. And once you're engaged in that area, there is a lightness and a sense of freedom of thought, that
Mm.
your thoughts are not traps,
Mm.
that mind is not this enclosed space in your head, that it's everything and everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah.
So beautiful, beautiful. If you were to, if I may ask, so if you locate your attention in your heart center, if you were to use only three words, three descriptive words, what three words would you use to describe your immediate sensation in your heart right now?
3 words, I would say: joyful, I want to say expansion, but it's also simultaneously it's a contraction as well,
Hmm.
because we we talk about expanding outwardly, but if you remember, we were talking about being centered in self and what self is, and that we contain the whole, and that whole is within us.
Hmm.
So it's a sense of like inward fulfillment,
Hmm.
which expands outwardly, simultaneously. Does that make sense?
Implosion, explosion. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, exactly.
Powerful. Powerful.
And the last word I would say is, um,
It can be temperature, any particular sensation, movements of
warmth. Warmth.
warmth.
Yeah,
Okay.
warmth.
Warmth.
Yeah,
Beautiful. 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 Yeah, so let me do an exploration myself and see what's
yeah,
here. I feel I feel bubbles. I feel quite buoyant. Um, quite as if in some sense, I actually feel weightless. I feel as if I'm within myself. There is this sense of levitation, and I think it connects to the expansive quality of our conversation. Usually, when I have conversations like this, the tendency is that I expand and I become quite lightheaded, so I can
mm.
feel lightheadedness as like I'm no visualizing here, but it's basically that I have a lot of space around my
Yeah,
head, and also there is this deep, like, calm, this sense of calming vibrations, and at the same time there is this profound like ecstasy of joy, I would say. Throughout this whole conversation I've been smiling, I think, more or less. More or less I've been smiling the whole time. And there is like the sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that comes with this conversation, and how it's simultaneously joyful, purposeful, motivation, energizing, interesting, curious, luminous, and all these different coming into a pot, and we're making like a dinner together, we're making a dish together. Really activates my being, so I feel activated. Simultaneously I can feel in my body that, after having been sitting for quite some time, I can feel that my lower spine is getting a little bit tired. This is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you feel me?
My legs are a little bit, because I've been sitting in sort of meditative posture.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
But
so that's coming in.
the thing is, sometimes when you're so engaged, you're not fully aware of like your bodily sensations. But then obviously you tap in. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got a few aches and pains
True,
here.
true that, true that, true that. One thing I will add though to all of this is, in this space we're engaging now, like there is a lot of expansive qualities, but I'm going to share, of course, that there are days and there are times where I don't feel joyful, where
No.
where I feel heavy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel dense. I feel um, drained sometimes. So
Yeah.
all of these, the full spectrum of the human experience is alive in me as well.
Yeah.
You know what I
Completely.
mean?
Definitely. And to be okay with that, and to actually sit with that, and maybe even explore that as well.
Yeah.
And I love Rumi's Guest House poem, because it talks about um, meanness, or kind of like anger, or like certain negative emotions that we all feel from time to time,
Yeah.
being guests in your guest house.
Like that. I love
Invite them in, because they are a gift from the infinite. And I really relate to that.
100%. And for me, this is the liberation. This is freedom, logically speaking, even when you're not attached to joy, where you're not attached to a particular feeling or a particular experience, but you can be open and embracing of whatever is present. That is, to me, a greater attainment for a human being than most of the time being happy, and then when you're not happy, you're completely lost, or you're completely you miss the mark completely. I feel that is a different. Both are important, and I think we can cultivate and create our lives in such a way that joy and happiness become more and more integral, more and more prominent, more and more pronounced. But simultaneously, this space and this dimension of awareness we're speaking to now even actually transcends the particulars of the experience, the content of our experience, and you are with the open quality of, boundless awareness that is ever present here and now, which is,
Exactly.
never comes, never goes, because it is the constancy of existence that is always here. And
Yeah.
as we dial into that dimension of our being, there is something new opens, and a new vision opens, and it also invites a shift of identity, possibly, when we realize actually existence itself and awareness itself is more is the fundamental ground of what I am. I mean, immediately we went through a pretty hole there, with deep contemplation. But I can feel that you are in full resonance with with what I'm presenting around awareness, and how that is the fundamental ground. And this we share. We are both that. Isn't that amazing?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's been many times actually when we've had conversations, and we have this, in that dialogue, and in that kind of sense of exploration, this epiphany realization, and it's just this humor that comes through that, that is just so funny that it's
Yeah.
just you have a similar realization of just like, okay, now we can just bask in this luminous moment, because it's just there and experienced, because there is not this separation,
Mm.
and
Ah,
happiness doesn't decrease by being shared. It's like it's I think important part of the process to share your joy with others,
mm.
and like you said, not trying to rule out others' experience if they're going through a difficult time or whatever, but allowing possibility of expansion, possibility of a new path to explore.
Mm.
Um, and I was going to say something about the kind of the energy and motion. Emotion. I think that there is a difference between feeling and emotion, and sometimes emotion might be initiated through thought or through a memory,
Mm.
whereas feeling is an experiential process of intuition
Mm.
through navigating through this spatial dimension, this awareness of what we're moving through, you
Mm.
know. And so to create those distinctions, sometimes emotion can you can hold on to, and you can allow to make you feel dense.
Yeah.
But when you start to become aware of the differences
Mm.
of feeling and emotion, then you can start to become uh, non-attached, and then you can observe yourself even in a state of lower mood, or anger, whatever you might be experiencing.
Mm.
Um, so you can see it as something that's moving through you rather than it being you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Non-sticky, 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 and to not be identified. Of course, the tendency when there are these like intense experiences, they can be of helplessness, it can be of worthlessness, it can be, and it can be even be subtle, like feeling not good enough, or feeling inadequate in some way, or feeling emotions of shame, or emotions of like something is just not right.
Yeah.
Even it's very easy for us to habitually we attach to that, like you said. um, Yet there is the possibility to seize the identification with what is arising and with what is present in the moment, and simply, like you invited, to be with it, to feel it, but feel it with a healthy detachment, with a healthy detachment. And that is a process, I mean,
But
even
it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just be like, this is how I'm going to be. You know.
and
And
even with the understanding and the insight,
yeah,
you will
yeah,
fall into the
yeah.
forgetful.
This is the part of being human. With there is no such sense of perfection. It's like it's an ongoing process of learning, and that film comes to mind, Groundhog Day, where he has to repeat the same thing over and over again till he gets it right. And
Mm,
sometimes life is like that. You have to repeat certain lessons, like I said before.
mm.
Certain things might come back around that you think, oh, I've got rid of, I've moved on from that. It's like, why is this coming back into my life?
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm gonna kick you out of here if you come again. Yeah.
so I've been trying so hard to get rid of you, and you're
Yeah,
rearing
yeah.
your ugly head again. But yeah, and it's about like I said, realizing that it's not a straight line. It's a cycle of healing and wholeness. Yeah.
Totally.
Mm.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conversation, my friend.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and also you wrote, "Life is a marathon, not a sprint." That is
Yeah.
something you wrote in your 2020 year kind of considerations.
Yeah.
That's
So pace yourself. It's important to pace yourself. That
yeah, Pace yourself.
That you know, to expand upon that, it's just this idea that I need to be at this place,
Yeah.
um, at this age or this time. You know, everybody grows in a different way. Um, it's important to honor your growth and your process and not compare yourself to others. Um, you know, it's like that story of the hare and the tortoise. You know,
Yeah.
the hare's just, you know, this arrogant and saying, you know, I'm going to win the race, and just takes a nap. But the tortoise is moving slow and steady, and then, you know, surpasses the hare, and then, you know, ends up winning the race. And the hare's just like, oh damn, like, you know, I got too ahead of myself,
Mm.
you know. So it's really about honoring where you are, and beginning here and now. What do I have to work with? You know, and if you have your health, you have a roof over your head, you have food, you have some friends, you know, that is a great place to start. And you know, you're wealthier beyond your imagination, from what you can conceive. So
Powerful. Cultivate versus assessing. That's what came into me. Cultivating what is present, what is alive, and giving, loving it, giving it good energy, focusing on it, nourishing it, and really having a wholesome, holistic relationship with life as it is present, versus this egoic, constantly assessing and comparing, versus, me versus that, what is better, what is worse, where am I at, that cultivation is always primary, and that we have the right approach and right understanding whenever we assess, that we don't assess from lack, but we assess like simply seeing differences and seeing possibilities over, this is missing, and I need to fill it with something else, as
yeah,
opposed to, okay, this is a possibility, this is something we can move towards, and having, I guess, a more playful approach with it all.
yeah, exactly. Because you know, look at this year, that some people planned holidays, retreats, festivals, things like that. None of that happened, and it's so there is a sense of disappointment when you expect, when you plan for a certain thing, and what you expect doesn't happen. There is a sense of like, oh, like, what am I going to do now? A sense of deflated disappointment.
Mm.
But when you have a sense of fulfillment with where you are now,
Mm.
but with a sense of aspiration in terms of where you're moving, a playful, as you said, exploration into the unknown, then it doesn't really matter what happens. That what happens is all a bonus in a sense, like, because it's like, wow, like this conversation, you know, we you know, you've had this idea to explore this podcast for a while, and something, you know, before, I remember you told me, and it didn't happen, but that didn't deter you from your own process and things you've been working through, and it has happened now because this is the right time for it to emerge. So it's about being open and being playful with the possibilities that arise.
Yeah.
And when you are in that space, um, miracles can happen, you know?
Magic, my friend. I feel this is a perfect time to continue the flow. I mean, there is no ending to anything. After this, we will be going on about our days and doing whatever we do is just transformation, isn't it? But
Exactly.
if like, you are, you've published a book recently, which is which I've looked through, and it's a brilliant piece of work, and you do music. Share a little bit about like what you're up to, what's happening. If people want to dive deeper into Samora Yeboah, where do they go?
So yeah, I mean, I published a book called Tales from the Serpent's Mouth. It's a collection of mystical wisdom around cycles, and I published that back in May, and you can get that on Amazon. You can just type the title, Tales from the Serpent's Mouth, Samora Yeboah, and you can purchase that there. I do have an Instagram page where I publish or post my thoughts and ideas and things that I'm working on. Right now, I'm working on an EP with a producer called Admin in Bristol with five tracks. So it's going to be hip hop, conscious hip hop. So it has a very positive, uplifting message. And also, I do music with the Hybrid, which is a collection of 3 individuals, my brother Cater and another friend of mine, James, who produces the music. So you can find that under the Hybrid. We've got loads of videos on YouTube. You can explore my hip hop music. And yeah, this year is really, like I said to Wazee before this started, for me is about expansion of connection. Just started a men's circle with my friend Kyle, which Wazee's a part of. And that's a great container where we're exploring ideas of masculinity and challenging each other to grow and inspire and mature in that way. But also I want to do some retreats. At the end of January, I'm going to do a retreat in Dartmoor in Southwest England with mixed group of people that want to do sound healing, meditation, breath work, and mantra and things like that. So this year is really about reaching out to other people, connecting, to inspire, and to really build upon what we have talked about in this podcast. So, yeah.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Sweet, guys. So this was the end, or this is, we're coming to the end of the first podcast. And, you know, you've always all witnessed it if you've stayed on till now. And so you know what it's all about. I am pleased and very satisfied with it all. So going forward, there will be multiple guests coming on. And I believe the next one is going to be Gibby. He's a very interesting man, very interesting dude, and he has a lot to offer. I mean, very authentic, interesting human being, and so grounded in love. This has been my experience so far, at least. So, you know, stay tuned, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to get notifications, stuff like this. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Lots of love.
Yeah. I
Cheers.
just want to say thank you, Wazee, for inviting me on, and it's been really a pleasure to really experience these moments with you. And yeah, so much love and so much joy. And if anybody wants to reach me, ask any questions about what we've discussed, then you can contact me on social media, and yeah, I'll be happy to do so. But really appreciate what you're doing, Wazee. And yeah, I can see this really expanding out as you connect with others that are like-minded. And yeah, I just really, you have my full support. So thank you.